Emmanuel Wilson could play a bit for the Packers on Sunday. He was in rookie minicamp for you guys a couple years ago. What do you remember about him? I know it was brief.
Give me the name again.
Emmanuel Wilson, the running back who was in rookie minicamp.
Okay.
Yeah, now he's with the Packers doing pretty well. Do you remember anything about him?
I don't remember him from rookie minicamp, but yeah, I'm glad that he's having some success. You know, it's always good to. You know, we always tell players that, you know, everyone's here and we can only keep a certain amount, but we're hoping everyone can put together good film and, you know, find a job. And it's good that he's doing well.
Joe, when you're facing a guy like Micah Parsons, realizing that he lines up differently, but you've got a guy on your own team that you had to block all preseason in Nick Benito.
Yep.
Does that give you at least some kind of sense and feel for a player like that and his athleticism and how difficult he is to block?
Yeah, I mean, I think the really across the whole front, the guys that we have to block during training camp is, you know, we always say iron sharpens iron, and I think that really helps prepare our guys for the season. And then, you know, it feels like every week we've got one of these guys that we got to block. I mean, dealt with it last week, and you know, Houston had two guys. I mean, almost every team seems to have one of these guys, and obviously, you know, this is one of the elite of the elite, and you know, they do a good job moving them around, and you know, you do your best to try to help your tackles, but when he shows up at different spots, it makes it a lot more challenging. So. Yeah, it's just definitely one of those highlighted players every play. You know, where is he, and how are we handling him? So, you know, we're, you know, obviously our offensive line does a great job, and this is going to be one of their biggest challenges of the year this week because, you know, if Micah wasn't on this team, then we'd be staring at Rashawn Gary and worrying about him because he's, you know, right there as far as one of the good edge rushers. So. Yeah, we'll have our work cut out for us for sure.
Just speaking of your offensive line, what kind of level is Garrett playing at so far this year, and how have you sort of seen, even though he's been playing for quite a while, his game evolve and continue to get better as you've been?
Yeah, I think you know, obviously he's had a great career. I think you know, I've mentioned it before. I think our you know, Streif and Chris Morgan, they do such a good job with those guys, and so just watching him. You know, take to their coaching and apply, you know, some of the things they're asking him to do that maybe he wasn't doing earlier in his career that can just, I think when you're as good as he is, you know, you have a tendency to be like, man, I know what I know, and it's working. I'm going to just keep doing what I'm comfortable with. And, you know, I think that as time's gone on, he's applied a lot of those coaching techniques that have even made him better. So, you know, real proud of him.
The ability to play that sort of ball control offense that you guys have to do good, how valuable is that down the stretch as you get into December and January?
Yeah, I think, you know, I told Bo after the game, like, you know, you want to go out there and have these explosive plays, and sometimes the defense doesn't allow you to do that, and for him to be able to just take what the defense was giving us and, you know, have those long drives, keeps our defense off the field, and able to get down and get points at the end of those drives was huge. And yeah, I think the more, you know, obviously he's got the ability to make those big plays, but when they're not given and we can just take what's given, and it's hard to do. You know, it's just takes one tip pass or one bad read or one missed throw and you're behind the chains. And when you can consistently do that, and then, you know, hopefully mix in a few explosives, you know, it's gonna up our chances of scoring.
For a guy like me who grew up worshiping your grandfather as a coach, I'm just wondering what it's like, how it's been for you as a coach in the NFL. Has it been tough to try to live up to, you know, what he did? Has it been nice knowing that he had so much success?
Yeah, I think, you know, I don't think I've ever tried to live up to, you know, be tough, win 5 NFL championships. So it's never something that I've really concerned myself with. I think, you know, a lot of time has passed. So I think people are obviously aware of it, but it's not as big a deal as if he was, you know, if he was coaching 10 years ago, you know. So, it's a nice legacy, but not something I think about a whole lot.
Last one, Joe and RJ, how much of you guys really like this vision in college? How much of getting comfortable seeing things at the NFL level is about experience? How have you seen him sort of make strides in that?
Yeah, for sure. I think the more reps he gets and the more experience he gets, what's in his body is going to be easier for him to play at that kind of level. And I think your point's well made. It's just experience and reps, and we value that. And as he's getting more touches and more experience and more consistency and getting those carries, he's just going to keep getting better and better. And was really impressed with what he did this last game, and feel like he's just going to continue to grow, and we're real excited about where he's going.
Sean was saying yesterday, Jordan Love's one of those guys he's seen get better each year. Just where's he taking the biggest strides as you watch him do?
I think he is in every part of his game, in my opinion. I mean, his accuracy, obviously, he's really good versus pressure, non-pressure. This young quarterback, when you watch him operate, especially on third downs, man, I mean, he is as far as protections, he's put him in the right protections. The ball's going to the right spots. The motions, the shifts. I mean, he's in total control. And when you watch the TV copies and you hear the verbiage, it's through him. And every game they've played this year, man, I mean, he is right on. And he's taking care of the ball. He has great skill. As far as the receivers, tight ends, and backs, it's a well-coached unit also. The O-line is really well coached in the run game and pass game, so it's going to be a challenge. But he is playing at a high level. He's accurate, man. He's making big plays. He's being aggressive, which is scary for a defense. His timing on big plays has killed defenses. So it's going to be a challenge for us to get him stopped.
They've had Watson back for a few weeks now, but do they have a true number one guy, or is part of the challenge just the balance?
Yeah. I think the balance, it's a really good group. They've got about 5 guys at the receiver position that can really hurt you, and they're all different. They have undersized guys with quickness. They have big guys with long speed. They have guys who are great route runners. The tight end Musgrave, he's a big guy who can stretch the field vertically. He's a good inline blocker. They have good backs who run the football, obviously, and also catch the ball in the pass game. So it's a good combination. It's probably the best overall skill that we've played all year. I wouldn't say it's 1 or 2 guys, but it's a really good group. And they've all made plays. Even the third down numbers, it's really like 14, 15 catches, 16 catches, so it's really spread out. And he is doing a good job, the quarterback meaning. He's doing a great job of getting the ball to the open guy. It's not one guy he's forcing the ball to, so it's tough to see who you can kind of take away, who you can kind of, roll a coverage to. It's not much of that on tape. It's organic. It's per read, it's per concept, so you have to play honest.
Vance, as the season goes along, do you find it, with the DBs getting better, they don't have quite the legs they had earlier in the season? There's more tape out there, and it's a little tougher to cover as the season gets late?
I don't think so, Mike. I don't see that. I think for all of us playing defense in the last month of the season, it's tough because it's 14, 15 games of tape, out there, so everyone's giving you their best stuff, versus what you don't do as well. So you have to weekly, in my opinion, continue to improve on the things that you're not doing well, and make the proper adjustments. If you don't, right, you're vulnerable to it. So it's not just, our back end, but I think it's the entire league. It's a tough league, and it's, 15 weeks of good football on tape. So you have to adjust accordingly.
Vance, how different is their offense with Josh Jacobs and without him?
I mean, he's a top-notch runner. So if he's out there, obviously, to stop the run game and keep the explosive passes from hurting you, that's the challenge, and he's a top 10 runner. So if you're in too much soft coverage, he can burn the clock on you, and gain yards. And if you're too much single high, he comes to big deep balls. So that's the challenge of kind of weighing, and it's the cat and mouse game between how much coverage you play, how much loaded boxes you play for the run game. So he is a special player, and it's a perfect storm with those receivers, the quarterback, and the runner.
as you go through the season? Obviously, you're always looking for wrinkles and all that. But do you consciously stuff that from the beginning or early parts? Is there stuff that you save, knowing that by 15 weeks in, there's a lot of tape out there?
No, you don't save things, but you have to make the adjustments. And you have to understand what the soft spots are. And you're taking care of players, or a concept of something they do well on tape, So it's a weekly adjustment. Every game plan that we have is different, because it's different issues every week. It's our job to kind of put out the fires on what they do well each week, and it's a player, it's a concept, whatever it is, But you have to adjust weekly. Late in the season, you have to obviously, play clean football in all areas, whatever you're doing, because if it's not clean, every play, it feels like it's 10 plays, So just playing clean and what you do well is the key.
From a coach's at home, your edge rushers, their ability to time the snap count, how real is that versus having talking?
Yeah, that's real. Crowd noise is real. Jumping the snap is real, obviously, and being at home, it obviously it's our advantage. Our guys are really explosive guys on the edge as far as to get off. But this quarterback again, he's got really good cadence, and it's a free play team. So if you jump, it's an all go and it's a throw up, right? It can be a penalty or a catch. So it's a fine line between jumping the cadence and just watching the ball move.
From a coach's perspective, Jordan Love is similar to Bo Nix in some of their skill sets and
Sure.
traits, and statistically, they're pretty close when it comes to blitzing them.
Uh-huh.
Both can get you.
Yeah.
Does it help you from a preparation standpoint that you practice against Bo every single week, and they're kind of similar?
Not really. This quarterback, he is a tall quarterback that can avoid pressure. He's so tall, if you have a free runner, he can just see over the pressure and throw it over the top of the pressure, and that's his greatest strength, in my opinion. And he sees it pretty quickly. Bo's obviously a great athlete. So Bo's superpower is his feet. He has great feet and quickness, so he can avoid rushers. This kid is a taller athlete who can throw over rushers, so it's different, in my opinion.
Vance, Vaughn used to say when you jump once, maybe twice a game that it's paying the tax. But how different is that whether you have a guy jump that's overly aggressive versus just an alignment, which we know has been an emphasis this year, they line up individual zone in terms of the coach?
I think any penalty is not good for us, right? So if he's jumping, paying taxes, I don't want that. I don't want a line offside. I don't want that either. So we don't want penalties. We don't coach penalties. Obviously, as an edge rusher, trying to time the cadence and the snap, that happens from time to time. So that's part of being a great rusher. But we don't want penalties ever.
In terms of just like schematically, when you have an identity and there's a team that maybe can threaten what you do well, how much is there a balance of kind of dictate to the offense versus understand sort of like where you're weak?
Again, every game is different, right? It's going to be games where we're really, really aggressive. It's going to be games where we're not, and it can change during the game. I think that's the key in this league is obviously to enter the game and know what you know about the team, right? But to adjust quickly is also important. I think, certain games are going certain ways. You have to adjust. You may want to be aggressive, and you can't be. The ball's coming out fast. They're blocking you, right? They're blocking your pressure. So it's time to kind of lay back and kind of fill the game out. So I think every game for me is the same. I have a plan going in, and if the plan's working, I'll stay with it. If it's not, I'll adjust. And you have to adjust pretty quickly in this league to win these games. So for me, it's the same every week. I don't look at certain offenses as different. It's have a great plan, obviously, but if it's not working, you have to adjust. And sometimes it's not being as aggressive.
Last question, Chris.
How's Greg Greenlaw coming along? His snaps increasing. Looks like he's fitting in well.
Yeah.
You could summarize.
He's playing well. He's playing good football. He's still playing on a limited snap count, but he's fitting in. He's physical. Our run defense is really good because of Greg Greenlaw. And half the time we're in shell coverage, which is tough to do in this league, to stop the run with 6 guys. But him and Alex behind the ball and our D-line, it's been pretty stout thus far. And, I've seen his greatest asset to us is in run defense thus far.
Riz, at the end of the first half, I think it was 62, 63-ish yarder possibility. How loud was that conversation? And I know you're not at a mile above sea level.
Yeah, well, listen. I'll say that Will. Let's start with Will. Will wants to kick every kick, right? I think, and that's the good news. You certainly don't want a guy that's turning it down. So, Will's got the utmost confidence. I think it's one of those things where you've looked around the league a lot this year. There's been a number of kicks that have come up short and been returned. There's obviously been some low ball blocks. I think Sean. I'm not going to speak for Sean, but just in our conversation, the way he felt the game was going, we were better off taking a shot there and not kicking a long one. Obviously, if that's a shade shorter, but when we got the sack, it was going to be a 66 or 67 yarder. We got the sack, made it low 60s, and so it was a conversation. And so I think that's all going to depend on where you're playing, who you're playing, how the game's going, And so, I think what people don't sometimes take into account, for example, we're playing the Packers this year. I was just watching this morning. They played the Bengals early on. There was an end of the half field goal that Keyshawn Nixon gets in his hands, and all of a sudden he's running around, and then all of a sudden that turns into the Alabama-Auburn game, and you thought you were getting 3 and they get a big play. So you're trying to avoid some of that. And then obviously the longer the field goal, the lower the ball comes out. So that's really the conversation, what went into it.
What, as you've gotten to know Marvin, what makes him special as a returner?
I would say what makes Marvin special and dynamic is he's got a natural feel. There's some guys that are ultra fast and there's some guys that are ultra athletic. It takes a special guy to be a punt returner. There's a bunch of great players that I've coached that they all can't do that job. Marvin's got a lot of experience, obviously, through college and now the NFL. And I think what makes him special is he's got really, really good instincts. You have to be really good at fielding the ball and be really good at decision making. Those things come with the territory. He's got a really good feel for wherever we're trying to return the ball, whatever our game plan is. He obviously has an extraordinary talent in terms of making the first guy miss, which on punt return is like the number one criteria. You can make that first guy miss or make 1 or 2 miss and get to where you're going. So nothing but positive to say about him. Obviously, when he gets out into open space, he's got finished speed. We were laughing because when I got here in the spring, there wasn't much Marvin hadn't accomplished. Right, he had a kick return for a touchdown. He's been an All-Pro. He's been a Pro Bowler. The one thing he hadn't done was return a punt for a touchdown. So I'll never forget. We were actually standing right out here when I first got the job here, and one of the things that I promised him was we were going to get him in the end zone on a punt. So I was really, really happy. I think the one thing I don't want to talk about that play without complimenting the other 10 players on the field, because if you go back and watch that play, and I made it a point to have all our players watch that play, that the work ethic and the effort by the other 10 is incredible. Jahdae Barron, just to mention one, he gets the play started. Devon Key comes off a block and gets another guy and pins a guy. Tyler Bidet, I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, but the effort by all other 10 guys was phenomenal as well.
There's a push in the locker room to get Devon Key to the Pro Bowl.
Yep.
Curious what you think makes him worthy being the AFC's representative.
I think he should be the AFC representative. I'm going to start off by saying that. Certainly for the voters out there, man, just watch the film. I mean, this guy's been as productive of a special teams player this year in 2025 as there is in the league. I think that the reason he should be the representative is I think people probably just look at the tackle stat, which he leads the league. But all the other things that he does, he probably is an unsung hero in the return game. I just mentioned he had a huge block on Marvin's touchdown. I feel like every big play return we've had this year, he's had some blocks. He's very, very well rounded. He leads our team in special teams plays, meaning reps. So he's really checked about every box this year. So I think he deserves a nod for Pro Bowl, All-Pro, whatever the awards are. The season he's had, the season he's put together through at least these first 13 games, he's deserving.
Did you know when you got here that he was going to be one of the guys you would lean on?
I'll say this to you. I didn't know as much about him coming in. One of the first things that any coach does is goes and watches the previous season. I didn't realize how good of a season he had last year, quite frankly. And I played, where the place I was, we played the Broncos, and I probably still didn't even realize how good of a season he had. Going back and watching the cut-ups, he was one of the first players that stuck out to me and stood out, and he made a bunch of flash plays. And I remember sitting here watching the film with Moof and us going through all the cut-ups and just saying, man, this guy just keeps making plays. So I probably didn't, realize how good of a 2024 season he had. So what that did for me was we were able to kind of put him into spots the spots we wanted to kind of insert him into our scheme, knowing, with the playmaker that he was. So, but kudos to him. I got nothing but superlatives and positive to say about him.
Riz, you asked Sean and Bo and BJ about playing at home. How much does playing here, beyond the obvious of the distance of the kick, help special teams at home?
Yeah, listen, I think it's really hard for just as a specialist group going on the road is always, there's always the unknowns, right? The unknown stadiums, the unknown crowd noise, the unknown, conditions, factors, all those things. Ironically, we're playing a kicker this week that's played in our stadium a bunch, but normally going on the road, we have a rookie punter, for example, so I'll just use us for example. So every stadium he goes into is the first time, most times he's ever been in that stadium. So just those little things, the conditions, the returners fielding the ball, the lighting is different everywhere, seeing the ball. So, and then obviously the crowd. And, I had played here a couple times as the opponent, but certainly when you're on the home side of things, it makes it a lot more difficult for the opposing team.